I am Rory Vaden, and this is Win the Day with James Whittaker.
You're listening to Win the Day with James Whittaker.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
Broadcasting from Los Angeles, California. Here's your host, James Whittaker.
Let's go!
Hey winners, welcome back to Win the Day. The quote for this episode comes from Muhammad Ali and says, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth." Rory Vaden is a New York Times bestselling author, Hall of Fame speaker, and co-founder of Brand Builders Group. As the world's leading expert on personal branding, Rory helps people clarify their message, amplify their impact, and turn influence into income. His work has been instrumental in guiding the careers of top performers like Lewis Howes, Ed Milet, Amy Porterfield, and Eric Thomas. Rory's TED Talk has more than 5 million views, and his new book, Wealthy and Well Known, has just been released. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to build an influential personal brand regardless of what profession you're in, the biggest mistakes people make in sharing their story, what's stopping you from achieving financial freedom, and why the secret to happiness is being of service to others. Before we begin, the right bit of inspiration can completely change the trajectory of someone's life, so there's a friend or loved one out there who needs to hear this episode or could use some help to win the day. Share it with them right now. All right, let's win the day with Rory Vaden. Rory, great to see you, my man. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
That's great, man. I'm so glad to be here in person and to get to finally meet face to face.
Absolutely.
Good.
We lined it up. And I know a lot of the stuff that you do is around personal branding, but I really feel like it's an operating system for a well-lived life. So for anyone who's started this episode thinking that maybe personal branding is not for me, stay tuned for this episode because there are so many valuable takeaways from your work that I feel like anyone could apply regardless of what position in life they're in.
Yeah, and a lot of people will ask that. They'll say, okay, like, what is personal branding? Who does it apply to? Because when people hear that phrase, personal branding, they often think of things like social media or influencers, or you have to host a podcast or write a book or be a speaker or launch a course or like a membership. We certainly work with a lot of those people, experts and creators, but the way that we define personal branding is much more fundamental than that, is simply the digitization of your reputation. And so people sometimes errantly make the mistake of saying, do I need a personal brand or should I build one? It's like, no, you have one, because it's the same as going, should I build a reputation? Do I need a reputation? It's like, no, you have one. You don't get the choice. The only choice you have is helping to influence it to make it be the one that you want.
And you get to optimize that through so many different ways, which impacts how people feel about you, even a feeling or an opinion they might have about you before they even meet you in person.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it doesn't matter if you're an executive at a company or you're an entrepreneur or you are an expert, somebody who's right in that center of our bullseye of who we work with. You go, all of us are trying to generate awareness for something. We're trying to drive leads for something. We're trying to promote the work that we do at an organization, or maybe get promoted or be an industry leader, or driving leads for our small business, or we might be trying to actually monetize our expertise. The principles, though, that we talk about, they apply universally to those three groups: executives, entrepreneurs, and experts.
Yeah, love it. Take us right back. Who was the first person to believe in you?
Well, it depends on how far back you want to go, but Brand Builders Group started on accident. It actually started out of a crisis. So my wife and I have been business partners since 2006, and we started a sales training company from scratch with 2 other business partners. And as we grew that company, we took on some investors, and fast forward 12 years, we had 200 team members, 8-figure business, 5,000 clients. And we walked into a routine, what we thought was a routine budget meeting one day. And as the company grew from 0 to quite large, that term philosophical differences really started to take shape. And my wife and I had some very clear ways that we wanted to move the business, and our partners were going a different way. And the investors fired her. And so she got fired. And they said, today will be your last day. Your services are no longer needed. And that's actually the first line in the new book, because that's where the story began. Well, so we had a non-compete in the sales training space. So we had no plan. We didn't know what we were going to do. So I resigned a few days later officially. And to the day, like when AJ got fired, this old friend that we had, his name was Lewis Howes, And I had been on his podcast a few years earlier. He literally called us randomly out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him for at least a year. And he said, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to borrow your brain. And I had helped him as a friend with his first book to become a New York Times bestseller. And that was one of the things we help people do is understand how to write books and things. And then we lost touch. And he said, my business is growing, but I feel pulled in a lot of directions and I don't have a clear strategy. And I feel like I need to borrow your brain. Is there any chance you would help me? And so Lewis came over because it was like, well, let's look at the calendar. Wide open. So we're like, sure. So he flies to Nashville. He comes, sits in our basement. We take him through just a bunch of random exercises and conversations and questions. And he, at the end, said, this is the most powerful 2 days I've ever experienced in business. And he said, this is what you guys were born to do. He said, this is your new company. And we're like, no, this isn't our new business. Like, we don't have a business. Like, we just got out of business. We've been working 80 hours a week for 12 years. Like, we don't have a team. We don't have technology. We don't have a bank account. Like, we have nothing. And he said, that's okay because I have an audience and I'm going to have you on my show and you're going to tell everybody what you did for me. And then we're going to tell them that this is what you do now. And we had over 1,000 people request free calls from our team. And we worked with Lewis for the next 2 years very closely. He's still an active client. But it took him like 6 years, I think, 8 years to go from 0 to 30 million downloads. And in the first 2 years we worked together, he went from 30 million to 500 million downloads. And he exploded. And now today he has over 1 billion podcast downloads. And, he's become a very successful celebrity. And it was really because of him. He was the reason that we started the whole business. So I would say when you ask that question, who believed in us first, I have to point to Lewis and say Brand Builders Group would not be here if it weren't for Lewis Howes.
Incredible. On this show, we often talk about having the belief in someone else. If someone doesn't believe in themselves, you can transfer the belief that you have in that person until they have the momentum to be able to say, yes, now I believe in myself. And it sounds like Lewis was able to do that for you in a slightly different way. It was almost like a transfer of clarity.
It was, and it was bilateral because he had 17 revenue streams, and that was one of the things that when we work with people, we take them through an exercise called the revenue streams assessment, and we list all of their revenue streams. And he very proudly was like, "I've got 17 revenue streams. Look I've got multiple streams of income." And I remember having to tell him, I said, "Lewis, multiple streams of income is the stupidest piece of advice on the internet today." And there's a lot of stupid advice on the internet, but that one is clearly wrong. I said, we've coached a lot of wealthy people. And if you just use common sense and you look at everybody, I'm talking like nearly 100% of wealthy people did not make their income from multiple streams of income. The way you get rich is by having one amazing stream of income, right? Jeff Bezos got rich from one thing, Amazon. Bill Gates had Microsoft. Jamie Kern-Lima had It Cosmetics. Sarah Blakely, right? She had Spanx. You go athletes, musicians, The Rock. Today, he's got lots of streams of income, but in the beginning, he was a wrestler. In the beginning, Gary Vaynerchuk talked about one thing, wine, on one platform, YouTube. And so the problem is, if you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. And so we shared that with Lewis because he had 17 revenue streams. I think he only had like 9 employees. Like, that's not even one employee per revenue stream. How can you possibly manage the marketing, the sales, the delivery, the customer service, the HR, the operations, the taxes, the legal strategy for 17 different revenue streams with 9 people? And it's because people don't realize that the way you get rich is having one amazing stream of income. Even Elon Musk, right? People say, well, what about Elon Musk? He has all these different things. Yeah, but in the beginning, it was just PayPal. He made all his money from PayPal. And so the way you get rich is through one amazing stream of income. Once you are rich, then you diversify because you can use that money to make more money. You can use that money to hire people to create things. But it's the same with your message, and you have to have focus. And then if you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. And that was really the only thing we ever honestly helped Lewis with. He did everything else completely on his own. But it was like, that was like one pretty big insight for him.
You mentioned there a lot of the things that Lewis had done. What about for you and AJ? Like, what single decision do you feel like has been the best decision of your entire career?
Well, I would say choosing relentlessly to focus on one problem to solve has helped. So I mentioned our first company. Part of how that grew and part of how I grew my personal brand and my career was that, I had no money. I was born in a trailer, raised by a single mom. We moved all the time, didn't go to Ivy League school, didn't have connections and wealth, wasn't famous, didn't have lots of followers, never had like a reality TV break or anything like that. But what I did do was I studied procrastination for 12 years. I researched it, I analyzed it, I documented it, I invented new terms like priority dilution, which was the chronic overachiever's procrastination. And that was how I started getting featured in media and I started getting asked to speak because I was solving a problem. When we sold that business, our first company, we exited, AJ got fired, I resigned, but we sold our portion of the business and we started Brand Builders Group. We said, what one problem can we solve for people? And it's got to be a new one. And obscurity was the problem we chose. Our audience at Brand Builders Group, our perfect clients are what we call mission-driven messengers. They are people who are experts, but who often are the world's best kept secret. They have the knowledge, they have the expertise, they have the experience, but they're not well known. The problem is they don't have visibility. They don't have a large audience, and they don't know how to do that because they've spent their whole life perfecting their craft. They're not good at, reaching more people. And so we said, this is the one thing we're going to do. And so we serve one audience, a mission-driven messenger. We help them solve one problem, obscurity. Often the strategies that we help them do is we help them figure out what one message that they need to have and what one revenue stream matters above all others. Then we help them figure out one traffic source. We drive it to one lead magnet. We teach them how to have one free call, have one conversation, close one thing, and scale that one thing. We have a lot of famous clients. You mentioned, some of them. John Maxwell is a private client now, and, Trent Shelton and Jasmine Star and, Cody Sanchez, all these amazing people. But 13 of our normal clients have grown their annual revenue more than $1 million a year since working with us. And it's through relentless focus. It's not through doing more, it's through doing less. And the best piece of personal branding advice I've ever received came from a gentleman named Larry Winget. So this is not a Rory Vaden quote. I wish it was, but I didn't say this. This is from a mentor. And Larry said, the goal of a personal brand is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. And so that's what we have tried to model ourselves. That's what we have taught to our clients. That's what we have researched and studied in the marketplace. And it seems to really work well. So I would say that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, a big focus of yours is that simplification, especially from the work that you used to do a little bit, a few years ago back in the productivity space. I think all of that is so interesting. But there's no surprise that you have such a big focus on that one-word problem that you solve too, like obscurity, like you mentioned, for the business that you have. I was thinking about it reading your new book, which is fantastic, by the way. And the reason I really started Win the Day is for apathy, because I'm, like you mentioned in the book, I'm serving the person that I used to be. I used to be someone that would drift through life and blame other people for the circumstances that I was in and the things that I didn't have.
That's good, James.
Yeah, apathy, it's such a big one. So the cure for apathy, the antidote to that, is to win the day.
Yeah, now here's what's interesting. So first of all, most people cannot answer the question, what problem do you solve, in one word? And that's why they struggle. Because if you're not clear on it, there's no way your customers are. And here's one of the shocking and fascinating, yet simplest and most profound things we've ever discovered in this work. People are drawn more to someone who markets the problem than someone who markets the solution. If I go out there and say like, hey, I'm the world's best plumber. Nobody needs the world's best plumber, right? Like, do you really need the world's best dentist? Do you really need the world's best lawnmower? Do you even need the world's best surgeon? Like, If it's heart surgery, maybe, but like if it's my knee surgery, it's like, okay, I hope they're good. They need to be good. But what happens is if I'm not paying attention to you, but the moment I have a problem, our reticular, this is, rooted in neuroscience, our reticular activating system engages, and it's like, I have a leaky faucet. And now all of a sudden I just need a plumber. So when I market the problem, people pay attention. The other thing is when I market the solution, people tend to overlook it. Why? Because they don't realize they need it. If they knew that they needed that solution, they would probably have solved the problem themselves. They don't pay attention to solutions because they don't recognize that they need it. What they do recognize is when they have a problem. I know when my knee hurts. I know when I have a headache. I know when my kid won't sleep. I know when I'm struggling in my marriage. I know when I'm gaining weight. I know when I'm not making sales. I know when I'm paying too much in taxes. Like, we pay attention when there's a problem. So you have to market the problem, research the problem, study the problem, but then sell the problem, promote the problem, celebrate the problem, and be an ambassador of the problem. And if you do that, then people will show up. And that is just something that it's a really subtle but important distinction that many small business owners have not made.
When I first moved to LA in 2013, I just happened to be at an event where Tom Bilyeu from Quest Nutrition was speaking.
Sure.
And he spoke about this one quote that just really, it's something that I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. He said that people want to feel like they matter. And when you're talking there about the problem, you can go to a website that says, I'm the world's greatest plumber, but people want to feel seen for the problem that they have. They want to find a match, an alignment that you understand that problem. So they want to feel like they matter is exactly the same as show me that you understand the problem that I have.
That's right.
Such a simple but important clarification.
Yeah, that's it. But it's ironic because it's like, especially in the personal branding world, like a lot of us, myself included, spend a large part of our career trying to prove our worth to other people. And so we're like we're on the opposite path, like trying to be like, look how important I am, when it's like the real shortest distance to success is not through self-centeredness, but service-centeredness. And you mentioned one of the quotes from the book, which is one of the greatest epiphanies we discovered, and we didn't know this when we started the company. We only discovered this through working with hundreds of clients, a couple thousand really. And once we got to about 2,000 clients, we were like, whoa, there's this pattern, this very consistent pattern that for all of us, every single person in the world, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. It doesn't mean that's the only personal brand you could build, but that is the shortest, most guaranteed path of least resistance, fastest path to cash, clearest, easiest thing is to go, whoa, I can help the person that I used to be. And when you do that, everything takes off. And that's why it's like, so Brand Builders Group has grown fast, right? We went from 0, we're back at 8 figures. We got, 50 employees, but it's because we're serving the person we used to be. Anyone can do that.
Yeah, I've heard you share the quote from Robert Frost, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. I think that's so big and like really connecting with your story.
That's another quote I wish was mine.
It's brilliant. I wish it was mine too.
So good. It's so good.
It was brilliant. It took me a long time to come to terms with my own story. It was much more comfortable for me to come and share Rory's story or anyone else, Lewis's story and Think and Grow Rich the Legacy and all of that. So for people who feel like, yes, I might have a good story, I believe and Rory does too, we believe that every single person has an amazing story in them, but how do you get someone to own that story, to believe that story as they put it out there in the world?
Yes. I would say stop thinking about yourself and your story and start thinking about the people that your story can help. You know you're doing it wrong when you feel fear. Fear only shows up when you're thinking about yourself. Think about when you're like going to go on camera and you're like, oh gosh, does my hair look good? Like, is my makeup right? Like, does my outfit look cute? Like, am I going to say something stupid? Are my friends going to make fun of me? It's all self-centered. But what we learned is there is no fear once the mission to serve becomes clear. If I'm driving down the road and there's a car turned over and someone is screaming for help and I run over there, I'm not thinking about, is my outfit cute? Does my breath stink? Does these pants make my butt look big? Right? Like, I'm not thinking about that. Why? Because it all disappears. I'm going to help someone. And I think this is another insight that is really important for people to understand. I think if you look at first responders, a lot of times we credit first responders with having superhuman courage. And I definitely would call them courageous. I don't want to say they're not courageous. But in my experience and observation, it's not that they have superhuman courage where they're not afraid of something. What really first responders have is superhuman service. They go, oh, I'm scared to run into a burning building. But that fear is secondary to the fact that someone is in there that needs my help. And there is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. So their innate ability is to focus on service, and fear goes away as a byproduct. So if you're feeling fear, you're being self-centered. And so when people say, oh, my story doesn't matter, no one's going to like my story, you can hear it in the language, me, my, me, I. But once you realize, you go, somebody is out there right now seeking and searching and begging and pleading, and quite literally could possibly be on their hands and knees praying for answers to questions that you know like the back of your hand. Why? Not because you have a fancy degree, not because you have famous friends, not because anyone cares about how many followers you have on Twitter or X. Like, it's because you've been down that path. You have survived that challenge. And so your credibility doesn't come from artificial factors like I've been on media, or I have a pretty website, or I have an important podcast with a lot of downloads or a lot of followers. That's not where your credibility comes from. Your credibility comes from asking the question, what setbacks have I survived? What obstacles have I overcome? What challenges have I conquered? Whatever pain or problems that you have personally experienced and moved past, those are the very things that shape you and make you and mold you into the person you needed to become one day to help someone else. So your story isn't important by itself, but it's ultimately important inside the context of its ability to matter and to help other people.
It's so interesting. I feel like on that, it's almost like there's no shortcuts to getting to that. You know, you've got to ask yourself the deep questions, or bring in someone like you and the company you have to ask those questions. Whereas the other metrics that people have when it comes to personal brand, the sort of perceived metric of success when it comes to a personal brand is the number of followers you have. So people say, cool, let me go and just buy a whole bunch of followers. And all that's doing is it's the fast route to the complete opposite. People know in almost every case if someone is disingenuous, if all of a sudden they go from 100 followers to 1 million followers. And there's so many, like, we all have pretty good bullshit detectors, I would say, these days. But for someone who tells an amazing story that captivates other people, motivates them to action, enables them to feel seen, it's just so much more wholesome and sustainable. And if you're serious about having an impact, rather than just trying to make yourself feel good for a quick dopamine hit, versus, actually trying to help the world, I feel like it's essential to go through those questions there.
It is. And so we've been kind of talking like spiritual almost and purpose. Let's talk tactical for a second. What makes more money? Okay, so you go, what's going to make more money? Everyone's focused on going viral and having lots of followers. Funny cat videos go viral. I might like your funny cat video. I might share your funny cat video. I might tell my family about your funny cat video. But that doesn't mean you've increased your trust that I would pay you money 1 iota, 0. So when you look at making money, it has nothing to do with followers. It has to do with trust. And trust can't be faked, right? Like, trust is earned through adding value. And so many people are focused on the width of their reach that they're overlooking the important part for monetizing, which is the depth of your impact. It is going, how much of a relationship do I have with James? If I want James to buy something from me, I need him to feel like I understand his problem, I can help with his problem, he matters to me, and that if he gives me money, he's going to get more than what he paid back in a return for that money. That has nothing to do. He doesn't care and go, well, I wasn't going to buy from Rory, but now that his followers jumped 100,000, now I'm going to buy from him. No. And so it's the irony is going, why are we chasing? They're not only vanity metrics, they're insignificant. They don't matter in the financial equation whatsoever. And so I think the sooner people realize that, the sooner they can sort of let go of that and go, no, I'm here to serve the people in front of me in a deeper way. And if you do that, you win. So we have a principle that we call the Goldman principle. And we named it after one of our clients. His name's Dr. Cody Goldman. And Dr. Cody, after my wife had her second child, our second child, right? She was like 30 pounds, 25, 30 pounds heavier, right? And she spent a few years like trying to diet and do all these things and couldn't lose it. And so she meets this Dr. Cody and he puts her on this hormone reset program. It's not a weight loss program. It's about helping you sleep better and get your hormones balanced. No shots, no drugs, nothing. You change these things in your diet and what you put on your skin and in your body and on your body. And in like 90 days, she lost 35 pounds. I mean, like 35 pounds. It's been radical. And now AJ refers him to everybody, right? Here I am telling you all about Dr. Cody Goldman, and you don't even know what he looks like, or like, but you go, and so the reason we call this the Goldman principle is because of this. The best form of marketing in the world is a changed life. Not a pretty website, not beautiful fonts and logos, not followers, not viral videos. You need one person who goes, you changed my freaking life, because they can't help but tell everyone about you. And that's what happened with Brand Builders Group. We got lucky that the first person was Lewis Howes, so that was a really successful win. But if you focus instead of trying to always get the next customer, if you focus on serving your current audience in a deeper way, your customer force will become your sales force. Your customer force will become your marketing engine. And that is what you don't hear about on the internet, but that when we look at the data of who's making millions and who's winning in real life, they're focused on that. Meanwhile, everyone else is chasing the algorithm and hacks and dances and trending videos and audios. And it's like, fine, do that stuff, but does it really create trust? We should be more focused on building trust.
You know who did that really well? Have you heard about a company called Poppi? They just sold to Pepsi for $1.7 billion. Yeah, Alison Ellsworth
for $1.7 billion.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, she was the founder. She was a mum, and she was trying to create something healthy to repair gut health. And she would create a lot of videos of her own on TikTok. It absolutely crushed, and then that's what drove the Poppi brand, and ultimately led to a $1.7 billion thing. She wasn't doing dance videos. She was revealing exactly who she was. And then that enabled them to grow on these platforms.
That's what happened with Jamie Kern-Lima with It Cosmetics. She was on QVC. First of all, they told her, they're like, no one's going to buy your makeup with someone who looks like you, and meaning her weight. And they were like, no one is going to buy from you. And instead of using supermodels, she went on live TV and brushed off her makeup and showed her rosacea. And everyone went nuts because they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea she had rosacea. This makeup covers up rosacea. And like again, you're serving the person you once were. Like, that's the pattern, right? That's the trend. That's the fastest path to your uniqueness. Serve the person you once were.
What have you learned about the mindset of wealth creation?
I'm a hardcore Bible thumping Jesus freak, which I don't hide. I'm very into apologetics and the logical academic support for Jesus, right? So I study a lot of that. Biblically speaking, wealth is kind of an interesting topic because, Jesus talks a lot about money and a lot about like, the love of money is the root of all evil, and like you can't serve two masters. And so, part of the struggle, I think, for some people with wealth is a spiritual battle, and they have this limiting belief that if I make money, I'm not holy, or if I make a lot of money, I'm not spiritual. What I've come probably the most powerful insight that I've realized about wealth is money is just a tool. It's neither good nor bad. It's like a gun. It's like if it's sitting there by itself, it's neither good. It's just there. What determines if it's good or bad is how it's used. Money's the same way. You can use money to, put people in slavery. You can use money to free people from slavery. money is just a tool. And so what really creates money is just the amount of value that I've provided for other people. And so I think if people were more focused on just going, if I create enough value for people, the money will show up. In fact, you mentioned Tom Bilyeu, so I'll tell you this story. So Tom Bilyeu and Lisa Bilyeu are clients of ours. They're a private client of mine. And I never intended for them to be a client. What happened was Lisa had a project that she was working on. Somebody was like, you should meet my friend Rory. I think he can help. And I was like, happy to help. Love what you're up to. Love what you guys are about. Love your story. What questions you have? So they start pinging me and I'm answering this and I'm answering this. I'm like, hey, you need to look at this. And hey, you need to do this. And they're like, hey, can we talk? I'm sure. Hop on a call. And I'm like, we have all these questions. And they're like, da-da-da-da. And they're like, I can't believe you're just giving me this. I'm like, yes, it's great. I'm happy to help. I love what you're doing. That goes on for like a month. They eventually, I still have this text saved. Tom sends me a text. Rory, I feel guilty and awkward about how much value we have received from you without paying you. We feel like we have to send you money, and we would like to officially become a client. You don't need to do anything for us. Just send us an invoice for some level of service, so that you can say that we're a client. And that's exactly how it happened. And it was just going, and that's what happens. Spiritually, I really believe you can't outgive God. You can't outgive the universe. So for those of you that are kind of like in ancient, scripture and stuff, in Malachi, one of my favorite verses is one of the only places in the Bible where God says, test me in this. And he's talking about tithing. And he says, bring me the first tithe, the first 10%. And he says, test me in this and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven. And he's saying, you give me a little bit and see if I don't overwhelm you with blessing. And that's a spiritual truth, but it's also just a psychological truth to go, it's not the theory of reciprocity. It's the law of reciprocity. If I add value to somebody, they want to help me back. Maybe it's money, maybe it's something else. The other thing that's fascinating about this that I've discovered, James, is that you always get paid for how much value you create. Sometimes it's now, usually it's later, but always it's eventually. And it's not always from the person you added the value to. Right? So it might be that you add a bunch of value to me and I don't pay you the money, but that money comes somehow from somewhere else. It always works that way. And so we apply this tactically to our content marketing strategy. So I'll tell you, here's our content marketing strategy for all of these top, personal brands we work with that have millions and millions of followers. I can sum it up in one sentence. Teach everything you know for free in small bite-sized chunks and all random miscellaneous order, and save the best for first. We give away the best of what we know for free, right? Here I'm on this interview going, I'm not holding anything back. I'm trying my best to give away what is most useful. In fact, maybe this is a good time to mention we're giving away my entire book for free. So if anybody wants it, they can go to freebrandAudiobook.com/wintheday. So freebrandAudiobook.com/wintheday. We're literally giving the whole book away for free on audio. They can go get it now, no catch, and you have it for a lifetime. If you're getting value from this and you want more, that's the next step. Why do we do that? Because, it's like, yeah, we want to be of service. We want to be altruistic. We want to help people. We don't want anyone listening who goes, I feel like I have a calling on my heart to help, to feel like they don't have the money to do it. So it's like, we'll give it to you. But we also do it because we are 100% deeply, fully convicted. And I say we because my wife and I co-authored the book and we're still business partners. She's actually the CEO of Brand Builders Group. But in our experience has 100% of the time been, we can't outgive God. We can't outgive the universe. Now, there will be thousands of people who will go download the audiobook and they will never pay us anything. But there will be a few people who will read the audiobook and they will go, I want your help. I want to work with your team. I want you to help build my funnels. I want you to help build my podcast. I want your team. And those few people will pay many times over for the admission of all the others. So you don't have to hide. You don't have to be scarce. You don't have to hold back. You don't have to gate. You don't have to like tease. You can just give and give abundantly and test God in this and see if he doesn't throw open the floodgates of heaven. And if you don't believe in God, believe in the law of reciprocity. It's not a theory, it's a law.
Dale Carnegie talks about it so well in How to Win Friends and Influence People
Sure.
too. Like the power of relationships is so good. And if you think you're going to make your way out of obscurity by gatekeeping your best content, I mean, one of the fastest ways to get out of the obscurity is to get clear on the problem that you solve and give away so willingly.
Totally.
It's so important to do that.
Totally.
Yeah. Your book is fantastic. I mentioned that at the start. What is the problem that you wanted to solve with Wealthy and Well Known, and who do you want someone to be once they've finished reading it?
Okay, so obscurity is the problem we solve. The book is written for mission-driven messengers who feel like the world's best-kept secret. Tactically, it's experts, entrepreneurs, and executives. The number one thing we want them to do is serve the person they once were. And then the book gives them frameworks for how to figure out their uniqueness, how to find their uniqueness, and then we give them frameworks for how to monetize it. So what we want them to do is we want them to live into that calling of becoming a mission-driven messenger so that they can reach more people. And for AJ and I, it really is a spiritual battle. We believe like there's a war going on in the world, a war going on for attention, a media war about what you're going to listen. It's a win the day war, right? You wake up every day and there's a war on your mind of like, what kind of person are you going to be today? And we want to empower an army of mission-driven messengers to help more people win the day, to help more people make the positive choice, to help more people be more respectful in their, marriage or their relationship or their parenting or, be more powered physically. Like, we can't solve all those problems, but when you add up all of our clients and the reach they're having, I mean, we're reaching, like, I don't even have 100,000 followers, I don't think, if on any one platform, or even if you add them all up together. But if you add up all the followers of all of our clients, it's tens of billions of people that we're reaching. And so our goal is to go, we want to make a little dent in the universe by grabbing, an army of a few thousand messengers and equipping them to do whatever they do, but it's kind of to just do it faster. Our whole internal moniker and our whole internal strategy, James, like the only thing that I think about every day, and like we try to get our team to go, all we want you to think about is how do we help our clients succeed faster? How do we help them make more money faster? How do we help them reach more money, have more people faster? How do we help them get past this mental block faster? That's it. So that's all we're trying to do.
We'll be back with the show shortly. I've got a quick question for you. Are you living up to your potential? It's a question that shapes your family, your business, and your overall happiness every single day. That's why I'm excited to introduce the Win the Day quiz. Head over to winthedayquiz.com right now, answer a few thought-provoking questions, and you'll instantly discover how well you're performing relative to your true potential. And here's the exciting part for our Win the Day family. As a fan of the show, you'll receive a personalized and absolutely free action plan to help you win the day every day. Now, just imagine how transformational the results will be when you consistently show up as the best version of yourself in every aspect of your life. Don't miss out. Take the Win the Day quiz now by visiting winthedayquiz.com or click the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the show. Is there a common trait or quality that you've noticed in all of the successful people that you've worked with?
Totally. Service. Absolutely. I mean, if you had to boil our whole book and our whole everything down to one word, which would be our uniqueness, is service. That is the superpower. And here's part of why it's really important, and this may be counterintuitive. There are a few drivers in life, a few motivators, right? So when I was young, ambition was a driver, right? I wanted to prove to myself that I was worth it. And there's nothing wrong per se with ambition. The issue, though, with ambition is that it has a point of diminishing returns, that you don't need tens of millions of dollars before you feel financially satisfied. Like for most people, if they're debt-free, their house is paid off, and they're making $100,000 a year, you can buy whatever clothing you want, you can eat whatever you want, you can travel wherever you want. Like if you have no debt, even if you make a little money, it piles pretty quickly. So money loses its power. And it's also like once you have some thousand of fans clapping for you when you're off stage, or some thousand people, reading your book, or, a few trophies, you realize it doesn't satisfy for very long. So ambition wears out. Competition is another motivator. I think many of the legends, in our world are driven by competition. I think of the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants, right? To use a Los Angeles reference, of like they're driven by being the best and by beating others. Again, I think that can be fine, but a lot of times that wears off because it's like, well, there's always someone better than you, and you finally seem to wake up and realize, who I'm really competing against is my potential. I'm competing against my past self. I'm competing against the best version of what I could be.
Tom Brady's so big on that focus. I wasn't trying to be the best someone else. I was trying to be the best that I could be.
It's good.
I love that.
That's good. Eventually, that also kind of wears it, right? Athletes retire. They get into the Hall of Fame. Like you reach this point where it's kind of like, well, I've been driving myself pretty hard for 20, 30 years, whatever time. The other motivator is not ambition or competition. It's mission. And mission is it's a powerful motivator because it's immediately satisfying if you serve one person. Like there's nothing like the feeling you get, the high that you get when you help one person. It's deeply satiating and gratifying. And at the same time, it's completely addicting to go, I can never be fully satisfied of wanting to serve more people. Once you get hooked on that, you just both immediately satiated and also infinitely never satiated. And so that's why I think it's such a super powerful driver. And that's what I think people have in common. If Lewis Howes was being motivated, if he was motivated by being famous or having a certain number of downloads, he would have stopped a long time ago. If Ed Mylett was being motivated by money, I mean, the guy has hundreds of millions. I mean, he had hundreds of millions of dollars years ago. Who knows how much he has now? But you go, what's another 100 million? Or certainly what's another million when you've got hundreds of millions? Like nothing. They keep going because they want to make a difference. Cody Sanchez is a newer friend, a newer client of mine. I was just on her podcast. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, absolutely.
She's amazing. Okay. Yeah. And you go, Cody Sanchez is already rich. She's already famous. She's wicked freaking smart. She already knows everybody in the world. She works so hard though. Why? Because Cody Sanchez is on a mission. She's on a mission to empower small business owners to take the wealth back from Wall Street. She's on a mission to help small business owners operate with the level of sophistication of Wall Street. She's tearing down this ivory tower where all of the money is held by the elite few, and she's trying to teach them those principles that she learned on Wall Street to distribute them. And I go, I don't think, no matter how much money the woman makes, I don't think she's going to slow down because it's woven into the fabric of her DNA. That's what uniqueness looks like, right? The reason that Ed Mylett still gets on planes to go speak is he doesn't need more applause or more money or more fame. It's because it's ingrained in his DNA. And that's what it takes, because you're going to get kicked in the face. You're going to lose money. People are going to quit on you. Customers are going to cancel. You're going to lose the biggest deal. COVID's going to hit, right? Like the economic, the depression is going to happen. Someone's going to come in and steal your market share. Like all of these setbacks are going to happen. And I think probably 80% of the battle is just perseverance. It's just keeping going. And so the only thing that's going to keep you going is, what is that drive connected to? And I think the most sustainable one and the most powerful one is mission. And that's what I see in common. John Maxwell is another great example, right? Another recent, you know who he is, right? Okay. So John Maxwell sold, I don't know, millions and millions of copies of books. So, him and his team, they hired me to like help them with their book launch. And I'm like, why is John Maxwell hiring me to teach him to like help them sell books? Like they don't need any help, but I want to learn. I want to get better. And it's like, he doesn't need another bestseller. He's got dozens of bestsellers, but he cares about this book getting into the hands of more people. And if there's someone who can help him do that, he's going to pay the money to do that. And you go, amazing, right? Like the guy he's already a living legend, but he's driven by mission. And that's how you know. The way you know someone's not driven by mission is, I hope I don't offend anybody here, but this is what I believe. The way you know that someone's not driven by mission is they retire. The word retirement means to be taken out of service. That's what the word means, to be taken out of service. So it's one thing to work a little less. It's one thing to go, I'm not going to have an official job. But if I work my whole life so that I can sit on the couch and watch The Price is Right and not be of value to anyone, you go, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying I know better than you. I'm saying that if that happens, that person wasn't driven by mission. And you ask me, what does it take to succeed as a personal brand? You got to be driven by mission relentlessly.
I feel like that means that complacency is no longer an issue. Like, you can't be complacent if you're driven by mission. For the most part, I mean, there's people out there which requires you to improve your skills, you to improve your network, you to get better at your craft so you can focus on helping. There's so many people out there to help. Focusing on mission and service enables you to go and just avoid that complacency that creeps into people over time.
Yeah, I mean,
you see it with athletes who, like you mentioned, if someone wins a golf tournament, they're sitting on the private jet drinking champagne on the way home, and then that's it. They never win again. And they, maybe they get divorced. They hate the rest of their life. It's a lotto winners. That's another really big one.
That's another fascinating lot of data supporting their life goes to hell in a handbasket after they win the lottery.
That's right. For a successful day for you, what does that look like?
So tactically, first thing I do every morning, I like when my alarm goes off, I say thank you. And it is a part of winning the day. It's a part of the first thought. I'm going to take the thoughts in my mind captive the moment I wake up. I'm going to make my thoughts surrender to my discipline and my intention. And I start with gratitude. The first piece of information I want to consume is scripture, right? So that is success, I want to read scripture. Then I will review often my goals or my vision or mantra. There's a couple different documents that I look at. Then I have to have exercise. And then I usually want to have coffee with my wife and tell her good morning and have some time with her. And then I want to try to get 15 minutes of playtime in with my kids before they go to school. So I don't know how many things that is there, but gratitude, Bible, goals, workout, coffee, kids. Let's call it, 6 things. Mm-hmm. By 7:30 a.m., I'm 6-0. That's what a great day looks like. And you talk about win the day. It's I really only have to win the morning. If I win the morning, I'm pretty much going to win the day. And if you win the morning every morning, you're going to win you're going to win the week, you're going to win the month, you're going to win your life. And so I think that's part of why people who are successful end up being successful anywhere, doing anything is because of that. So, those are the things that I'm trying to do every day. But, how do I think about using my time these days? My TED Talk, I had a TED Talk that went viral called How to Multiply Time.
Excellent. It's one of the best talks I've ever seen. The way that you inject humor and it is absolute. It's a masterclass in public speaking. Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
I'll include a link to that in the show notes.
Thank you, James.
Well.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we teach people is the psychology of laughter and storytelling and all that. But yeah,
a bit of misdirection too. You make it look like it's something very serious and it ends up being a joke. There's it's a brilliant message, but the way that you deliver a masterclass.
Thank you. Yes, so those are all very intentional, by the way. But we talk about how to multiply time, and that whole TED Talk, which was also my second book, was called Procrastinate on Purpose: 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. Here's how you multiply time in one sentence. This is a whole nother podcast episode, but in one sentence, you multiply your time by spending time on things today that create more time tomorrow. At this stage of my life, I'm trying to spend my time on things and people that multiply. I'm trying to spend my time with leaders that I know can build, not just get a task done, but can lead a team, a division, a whole company for us. I'm trying to spend time with clients where I go, they're not just going to make a little impact. They're going to grow lots of leaders and make an impact. So I'm trying to spend my time on things that multiply. I'm building heavily into AI right now. We just released 25 custom bots that we built that do very tactical things. One of them is a joke. It's called HumorBot. and it'll write jokes for you. And so we have one called Presentation Grader. You can upload your keynote into it, and it will coach you as if I was sitting there coaching you. We have one called Title Bot, which talks about, why most titles are terrible, and the 5 title test, which is also something we cover in the book. But it takes that chapter of the book, it turns into the bot, helps you generate titles, and it will tell you why the titles you have are the wrong ones or the right ones. We've got one called Topic Bot. Like all of these bots we're building. Why? Because they multiply my ability to go, I can only coach one person one-on-one, but if I can get my brain installed into a bot combined with the LLMs as a foundation, and then create it as a gateway for each of our customers to apply their ideas and brainstorm with it as if I were sitting there, powered by like ChatGPT and Claude and all that, it's like it multiplies. So that is what I beyond time with God, time with my wife and kids, it's like, what is going to multiply? That's how that's what a successful day looks like.
And you and I have a ton of mutual friends, and everyone that I spoke with spoke so highly of you. They spoke maybe even higher about your wife, AJ, as well. So,
yeah, that's true.
So you married well, which is great.
Yes.
The two of you are in business together. You're in parenting together, and married together. Obviously, parenting it feels like a big business on its own, just in terms of the emotional exhaustion and all of that is required. But obviously, an incredibly rewarding journey. How do you balance parenting and business together?
Well, anyone who runs a household runs a business for sure. The truth is, I have a massively unfair advantage in all of this, and it is AJ. We've been business partners, and she is the CEO of Brand Builders Group. I'm the CMO. We're the only 2 business partners, no investors this time, no partners, no debt. We just own the whole thing.
Simplification.
Yeah, we learned the lesson the first time around that we were going to keep more control. But the we're best friends, and we're partners in everything. So the truth is, she carries a lot more than I do, right? She's managing the house, she's managing the kids, she's managing the business, she's managing the meals. So we hire a lot of people. That's one of the things we teach in Multiply Your Time. So we hire whoever we need to support us in those endeavors. But I think that's part of it. Would be you can have it all, but you can't do it all yourself. And one of the biggest insights that came in writing my second book, which didn't come from me, it came from one of the multipliers that I interviewed and profiled in the book. And when he said this, it changed my life. He said, I got to a point where I realized 80% done right by someone else is always better than 100% done right by you.
Was that Dan Martell?
No, Dan has said that, but that's in my book, which came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was from an interview that I did with another multiplier. So
I thought that seeing your stuff had predated a lot of Dan's stuff. I was wondering if he was, and I know you've got a testimonial from Dan in your book. I was wondering if a lot of the content that you would put out had influenced Dan with Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm friends with Dan. He's not an official client. I love Dan. I love Buy Back Your Time. I've read that book. There's a lot of principles that overlap with my second book, which came out in 2015. There's a lot that don't, though, and Dan is incredibly successful. But like all of us, I think we learn from lots of people, and sometimes I'm sure there's things that I say that I'm like, oh, that was really something I learned from Zig Ziglar, and it's like, I should probably quote Zig more specifically when I talk about this or that. So, Dan is brilliant. But anyways, that particular quote is a verbatim quote that, again, isn't even really from me. It's from someone I interviewed, though, and his name is Troy Pepple, and he's in the book. But anyways, point being, that idea transformed my life to go, oh gosh, I need to be okay with imperfection. But if I can get other people to do things at 80%, it's like, as long as the cooking is at 80% and like the house is clean at 80% and most things can be done imperfectly and be way better. But if I have to do it myself, the payoff is I get to have everything done perfectly the way I want it. The problem is I've created a lifetime prison sentence to where I have to do it. And if I have to do that, then there's an opportunity cost of me not being able to do other things. And that's the real growth area.
That's one of the biggest things I struggle with, admittedly, is, I feel like I'm a bit of a high functioning perfectionist, and that when I do things, I can do them very, very well. But as a result of that and having a background which has been a bit of a generalist, I've been able to do so many things. It means I do have expertise in a pretty vast array of areas that for many years of my life I've been jealous of the specialists who can just get in there and do, one or two or three things really, really well. It's a real challenge. It's a real risk to your business, isn't it? And your life when you feel like you have a very particular or perfectionist tendencies around a specific outcome that may not even matter at all in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah. So again, we're sort of dabbling into my second book, but the subtitle is The 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. One of those 5 permissions is the permission of imperfect. It's the permission of imperfection. And I noticed this because, I've had like 7 billionaires that I've personally coached. And one of the things that I noticed is they care much less. They're not the smartest people I know or the smartest people I've coached. Many of the smartest people I know struggle to make money because what got you here as a performer won't get you there as a leader. When you need everything done perfectly, and this is why I sometimes say straight A students make bad entrepreneurs, because when you're a straight A student, which I was, and I think it's held me back, your whole life is programmed for perfection. So when something is imperfect, you're not able to move on from it until you make it perfect, which means you're always and nothing can ever be perfect. So you're always being held back into the past. Meanwhile, C students are like, freaking 74, let's go, baby. 74%, like rock and roll. And they're like, wait, I can hire someone who can do this and get an 81, a B minus, and I can pay them $50,000 a year and they'll do B minus work. And that's way better than I would do myself. And that's what they do. And they just go multiplying because it's largely empowered by this innate lack of a need for perfection.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I once took my daughter, she was 3 years old at the time, to a pump track on her bike for the first time. And there was one dad there who was watching his kid. He was terrified of his dad, but he said this kid was born with no fear. He's just going down everything. And of course, this kid is going to have a lot more bumps and bruises and probably concussions and everything else, but he's going to pick up bike riding 1,000 times faster than every other kid there. So you've got to understand the sacrifice and perhaps some of your natural tendencies, if that's the way that you're wired. The people that I've seen that are so academically gifted, they evaluate risk so stringently that it becomes an inhibitor of action.
That's good.
And one of my favorite quotes ever is from Napoleon Hill: action is the real measure of intelligence.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and obviously you need to, of course you need to evaluate risk. Of course you need to be dedicated and committed and have some things that you really care about, where perfectionism is an important thing. But, most of it is a bit of an illusion that we've created in our own mind.
That's right. Yeah. And I think calculated risk is I would say that's one of my philosophies, is calculated risk. Yeah. But waiting till there's no risk is like you're never going. And yeah, you said the word academics. A lot of academics are maybe some of the smartest, but definitely not the most wealthy and not necessarily the most influential. They can be very influential, but that is, I think our perfectionism tends to work against us at some point a lot more than it works for us.
For sure. Last question before the rocket round. On your best day, what's an affirmation that you would write on a flashcard that you could show yourself on your worst day?
These are so good, such good questions. Ask it again.
On your best day, what's an affirmation that you would write on a flashcard that you could show yourself on your worst day?
About myself?
Just anything you feel like could help you turn it around.
On my worst day, the only thing I ever think about is a Bible verse, Romans 8:28, which says that in all things, God is working for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And I always think about that because it's not in some things, it's not in most things. It's that in all things, God is working for the good of those who love him. So my job is to love him. And if I love him, then I can trust that whatever is happening somehow is going to add up to a greater good later on. That's what gets me through all the hard times. So that's the thing that I would focus on.
Provides that faith and resilience. Let's now move to the Win the Day Rocket Round. 10 questions for some quick answers. You up for this one, Rory?
Quick answers are hard for me, James, as you may have noticed.
I'm pretty lenient with it too. So wherever you want to take it, we'll take it.
Okay.
Number one, what quote inspires you the most?
Ooh, okay. This is a quote from Dan Sullivan, another life changer. He says, if you have enough money to solve a problem, you don't have a problem.
Oh, that's good. I thought you were going to say the Dan Sullivan quote, make sure your tomorrow is always better than today or yesterday or something like that. That's another one of my favorite Dan Sullivan quotes. I don't think I've heard
that one before.
Yeah, which is great. But yeah, I love that one.
If you can write a check and solve the problem, write the check.
Yeah.
You, AJ and I have realized it's like, we don't need more money. We need less stress. We should be willing to trade money for less stress. And that was another concept that, again, we're hitting on these themes for my second book, Procrastinate on Purpose, is that what poor people do is they spend time to save money. What rich people do is they spend money to save time, right? A poor person, this was my family, we would park 3 hours away, like, we'd have to walk 3 miles to get to the stadium because we couldn't afford to pay like the $20 or $50 for parking, right? And we're like, no way I'm paying that for parking. A rich person's like, getting the 3 hours of walking time or an hour of walking time is worth, my hour of my time is worth way more than $50. So it's like, I will pay that in a heartbeat. And that's that's a psychological change, but it's connected to that Dan Sullivan quote.
It reminds me of the Jim Rohn quote when he, do you know Jim Rohn?
Yes,
personal development icon, amazing.
I mean, I never knew him personally, but yes.
Neither, but yeah, through his, audio recordings and all of that.
Yeah, he was incredible. Brilliant.
Yeah, the way that he would cut through things like things are not too expensive, you just can't afford them. Or don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Things like that. They're so
good.
Brilliant. Yeah,
it's good.
Number 2, morning coffee or evening wine?
I morning coffee, and it's decaf. I don't really drink coffee, but we do. My wife drinks coffee, and definitely so. I haven't had alcohol since the night AJ told me we were pregnant with our first kid. So I stopped drinking in solidarity for her during the pregnancy, and then I just never picked it back up.
It's amazing how your body almost just doesn't want it at all, just pretty quickly after you make that decision.
Yeah, it's like it really wants it bad for like a few days, and then maybe a couple weeks, and then it's like after a few months, it's like I literally have no attraction to it whatsoever.
Yeah. Number 3, what's one bit of advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
You're on the right track. Keep going.
Number 4, what book do you gift the most or that contributed most to the mindset you have today?
Well, separate of the Bible, which for sure, number 1. And by the way, I only read the Bible all the way through about 4 years ago, but now we've read it every year all the way through, and that's been transformational. Separate of that, the book that I gift the most is Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover on being debt-free. That book changed my life, our marriage, thus our business. Everything we do, I can point back to financial intelligence, which I did not learn from my family. I learned it from Dave Ramsey, and I followed it to a T, and man, it's worked.
Interesting. Number 5, was there a vulnerability you once hid within that became your superpower?
My data-driven nerdiness. I was valedictorian and I was very smart, but I always tried to like downplay that and hide that in school because I wanted to be popular. And I was not very good at being popular. And as I've gotten older, I'm incredibly nerdy. I mean, one of the things in the audiobook, again, so if you go freebrandAudiobook.com/wintheday, we'll give you the audiobook for free. When you listen to the audiobook, you'll hear us quote a lot of statistics. We do national research studies that are PhD-led, academically valid. We follow traditional academic rigor, and we give away the research studies also for free. And all of that data-driven nerdiness has empowered so much of our digital strategy and our AI stuff and how we do book launches now. And it's like, plus it turns out AJ is hot for nerds. So it just really worked out. I mean, that really worked out for me.
I love it. Number 6, what's one thing you've learned about failure?
There's no failure unless you quit. That's the only failure is quitting. Like there is no failure. There's just, I think it was Einstein who said that it's just all valuable negative information. I don't know, maybe it wasn't Einstein, but somebody said that, and it's just like, there's only trial and error. There's only experimentation. Everything is just a great experiment. So if I think it's like when you learn to approach, particularly business, parenting, I feel is a little bit different because it's like, okay, I only got one shot at this. So I'm like trying to get it right. But like business is like, oh, just experiment, just test it.
Yeah.
The best way to know if it's going to work is like don't think about it, just do it. And then be like, oh, that didn't work. We shouldn't do that again. Or like, that worked really well. Let's do more of that.
Is it the Thomas Edison quote? I've just found 10,000 ways it doesn't work. Yeah,
that's part
I thought
of
that
it.
was what you were looking for.
Yeah.
Number 8, what tool or resource best helps you run your life or your business?
What tool or resource? I guess I would probably go with Keep, which is our CRM marketing automation tool. It used to be called Infusionsoft, and it is changed our life because it gave me the ability as someone who isn't a coder to build funnels and sequences and if-then logic and all of this tremendous, not just marketing automation, but sales automation, workflow automation, customer service automation, financial automation. And it's just like this suite of tools that I was able to just learn to go like, man, I've been able to create a lot with this tool, and it's one you don't hear often about. And it's not necessarily the most intuitive, but if you're just a logical person, it can be life-changing.
Number 9, share one thing on your bucket list.
I want to go to the NCAA Final Four.
Nice.
I want to watch the Final Four. We went to the Super Bowl a few years ago when the Broncos got trounced by the Seattle Seahawks. But I really want to go to the NCAA. I love college basketball, particularly the Final Four, and I've never gone for no real good reason other than I'm just a bad planner. And by the time I'm like, oh, it's the Final Four, and it's like, oh, I'm speaking over here and I'm doing all this, I'm like, I can't go. I want to go.
And last question, what's one thing you do to win the day?
I think it is, I believe winning the day ultimately comes down to winning your own thinking, mastering your own thoughts. And so I think about my thinking a lot, because I realize that when I'm not thinking about my thinking starts to think on its own, and that's really dangerous. So I never let my thinking just run loose. I master my thoughts. And I think that I've learned in neuroscience, one of our clients is Dr. Caroline Leaf. She's one of like the top neuroscientists. She's brilliant. And I had a lot of good conversations and love her stuff. That I learned that like the human mind is basically a computer. It will process on whatever you tell it to process on. So if I want to find an excuse, if I want to find a reason to complain, if I want to find a reason why I can't succeed, my brain will process on that until it finds a satisfactory excuse, justification, or rationalization. If I direct my brain and say, I want you to find an answer, I want you to find a solution, I want you to find a way, I want you to find a path, it will process until it finds a way. It's all human brains, I believe, are happy to do whatever you tell them to do. But if you don't tell it what to do, our brains, for some reason, tend to naturally default. And I actually know the reason why is because the human brain is not designed for success. That's why. The human brain is designed for survival. The number one function of the brain is to keep you alive. How do you stay alive? Well, you stay alive by conserving energy, doing what is safe, doing what is comfortable, doing things that are predictable, not taking risks, not meeting new people, not trying new things. That's how you survive. How do you become successful? You take chances, you learn new things, you meet new people, you explore new opportunities, you risk failing. It's the complete opposite. So if you struggled with mediocrity or failure or apathy or any of those things, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It actually means you have a perfectly functioning, healthy, happy, normal human brain. But success isn't ordinary. Success is extraordinary. Success isn't usual. It's unusual. And if you want to have a successful brain, you have to train your brain and program your brain and direct your brain to intentionally, consciously, deliberately focus on finding a way. Otherwise, it's going to always find a way out.
So good. What a way to finish. There are a bunch of ways to connect with Rory Vaden. We'll link to all of these in the show notes. You can follow him on Instagram at Rory Vaden, visit his website, roryvaden.com, and grab a free audiobook copy of his new book, Wealthy and Well Known. Fantastic read, full of practical information at freebrandaudio.com/wintheday. Again, all that and more will be linked in the show notes. Rory, what a pleasure, my man. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, James. Thanks for what you're doing here. You are helping people win the day, and it's such an important mantra. And like, don't ever be apathetic about helping people break free from apathy, because it's a massive problem in the world, and you are the messenger that's called to do it. So keep going, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Win the Day podcast. We want to hear your thoughts on what we covered today. So drop a comment on the YouTube version of this episode with your favorite takeaway, any questions you have, or what actions you'll be taking as a result of what was shared in this episode. And if you found value in the Win the Day podcast, leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You'll find a link to both of those in the show notes. It'll only take you a few seconds, and more ratings really helps other people discover the show so they can get the mindset upgrade they need, and we can bring more winners into the Win the Day movement. That's all for this episode. Get out there and win the day. Until next time, onwards and upwards, always.